Hi, I'm Dan Gooding and this is the West Bridgford Wire Property Market Update, January 21. On the last West Bridgford Wire Property Market Update, I was saying how bonkers the market was, and my predictions were that the stamp duty would be extended past the end of March. So far in January 21, we've not had any news about an extension, although there has now been a petition signed with over 100,000 signatures, so it now needs to be heard in the House of Commons. I'll come back and touch on the stamp duty later, but let's just talk very quickly about the end of last year and what the market was like. We had some fantastic results on certain properties, and one in particular I wanted to talk about in Lady Bay. That was a property on the market for 650,000, where we had 53 viewings, we had 23 offers, and 23 of those offers went to best and final bids, where half of them actually offered 10% over the asking price. And that just shows the level of demand we experienced last year. It's a huge amount of money, and it was a property that was sort of the next step up from the normal 4-bed semi in Lady Bay. There's always a shortage of big family homes, and but it just showed the amount of buyers in the market, probably 2 or 3 times more than we'd have seen sort of on the previous year. And people were just so desperate to obviously get moved, and you know, incentives like the stamp duty paid was a major factor. It's interesting that stamp duty pushed prices up. The saving pushed prices up. So when we reopened in January, we expected things to pick up where we left off in December, but we got some interesting news, obviously on the Tuesday of the first week back, where it was announced that schools were closing and we were entering a full lockdown. Unlike the first lockdown of back in March, the property market was allowed to stay open. But it has meant, of course, people are now having to work from home and, of course, homeschooling children. So very much their focus has been taken off moving, and also the fact that people in January are probably very unlikely, unless they're first-time buyers or cash buyers buying something with no upward chain, unlikely to meet that end of March stamp duty deadline. Can talk a bit about the stamp duty and how it basically overstimulated the market when actually it wasn't needed. Something that was there to stimulate a market that probably didn't need stimulating. It has the opposite effect of what they were trying to do. They were trying to bring buyers into the market with it, of course, and it worked. But then, of course, you end it and it gives buyers an excuse not to enter the market, not to put the house up for sale, not to move, because there's no incentive gone. And people hate to think that they've missed out and other people have had, you know, an advantage over them. And that's why it's difficult. It's a bit like when a sale ends, I suppose. You know, I bet you don't get many people on Saturday after Black Friday going buying television, do you? It's impossible. It's a difficult thing, and a lot of people think that it shouldn't have come in, the stamp duty. It wasn't needed. The market was buoyant because of the pent-up demand and people's changing needs of gardens and home offices. And what they should have done is held that back. You know, it was a bit of a trump card to hold back until maybe this sort of time. The greatest factor for the property market in 2021, of course, is this stamp duty holiday coming to an end. And it was something that was brought in to boost the housing market, where most people would say it wasn't really required because there was so much pent-up demand following months of lockdown and people's changing requirements for outside space and extra rooms to work from. So really, the stamp duty holiday in July overstimulated the market to some degree. So the most difficult thing for the government now is trying to end that, and whether that's by way of an extension by 6 months, which the petition that's been signed by over 100,000 people is asking for, or whether it's simply changing it to allow people that have exchanged on properties are eligible for it, rather than a property that must have completed before the 31st of March. Which seems very unfair if their conveyancer is unable to meet that deadline now because of the lockdown. So it's really sort of out of no fault of a buyer that they would then be penalised. So here in West Bridgford, we've seen the boost the stamp duty holiday has given, and that real emphasis on people wanting to reach that end date. And we've currently got twice the amount of sales in our pipeline than we did at this time last year. This month, January, has seen the biggest amount of sales completions we've seen as an agency in our history. Looking ahead, I feel it will be a little bit quiet while the uncertainty of the stamp duty holiday if there is going to be one, looms, although there is still a large number of buyers desperately looking to move within West Bridgford and the surrounding areas. And these buyers are very clear and understand that they won't be able to make a stamp duty saving. So what we are now seeing is that a real lack of stock coming on the market, and people that are putting the house on the market are benefiting from a lack of competition, where normally you might see 3 or 4 of the same houses coming on. At the moment, lucky to get one. So if you are thinking about selling, it is actually a good time. And if you are buying, just be aware that it is unlikely to meet that stamp duty deadline if we don't see an extension, which we're all hoping for. The best advice is speak to your solicitor and get their advice on timeframes and how long they feel it might take for them to complete the conveyancing process. If you're thinking about buying or selling a house in the West Bridgford area, please do get in touch. I'll be back in the spring for the next property market update.